This tour seems to be the tour of the unavailable attractions. Hey, welcome to Plänterwald or Plänterwald. Wald, the suffix means forest, so you may expect many trees today. Plänterwald belongs to the district of Treptow-Köpenick. Inside the district, it is at the very northwest. Population and size are relatively small. If you take a look on the map, you can see that almost 50% of the locality is covered by the forest. And you can also see that the locality is close to the river Spree. But before we go into the woods, I would like to check out one of the points where the east and the west were divided by the wall. So if you've seen some of my episodes, you see pop up that topic every now and then. And in this case, there might be some traces or not. So that's the first thing on the list. And then I would like to check out a former amusement park. I'm not sure if you can get close to it or not, but that's the second thing. And then I would like to go to an old, nice looking house, as I've read, that was featured in one of the most famous German novels of the 19th century. So that's the plan for today. I would say let's lose no time and let's go. I started my tour at S-Bahnhof Plänterwald, and some 500 meters later I reached my first destination, a memorial site for victims that were killed at the German border. Behind me you can see one of those memorial sites for the Berlin Wall. So there actually are some traces, although there are no remainings of the wall itself. It's more the environment, the landscape that you have to look at closely. Like you can see some green strips with relatively young trees. That usually means that these corridors were part of the Todesstreifen, so that the wall was nearby. I followed these signposts. On the left-hand side, you can see the young trees that I mentioned, and on the right-hand side, there is a small creek. Nowadays, people are making good use of this area by going for a walk or riding their bikes. And I mentioned that the area was not used for housing so much, but rather for Kleingärten. So I captured a few photos to give you an impression of this very green area. But I also took a few photos of the nearby houses to give you an idea of how people are residing here. Then I continued my tour to the center, to the main road Köpenicker Landstraße or B96A. You can't make a video about Plänterwald without mentioning the B96A, the biggest road of the locality. It's cutting right through the locality, splitting it up into two parts more or less, the eastern and the western part. And it's really wide. The road has 3 lanes in both directions, which is unusual, and there's a lot of traffic. I just wanted to mention this. I proceeded on Dammweg and found a few more houses of different styles and probably built in different times. And I also took a few photos to show them to you. And finally I reached Plänterwald. The forest has a size of around 89 hectares. Quite impressive. I have to admit that I am not the biggest fan of forests. However, I appreciate them a lot as a place with clean air and with space around you, and also a place, a shelter for wild animals and wild plants. So I think it's great that there are big areas of forests inside of a city. However, I'm trying to keep my stay here a bit shorter because I want to progress to the former amusement park. What you can see in the photos that I will show you behind me, there's a great playground for children, a water playground. These are quite typical of the early times of Berlin, like 100 years ago. I think they were all over the place, and also especially in the east. And these water playgrounds, I think, are the greatest thing for children. But despite it's still a bit cold, and I think also because of the COVID situation, this one's closed at the moment, and hopefully it can reopen quite soon. Just a few steps away is the former Spreepark. I am in front of the former Spreepark, the amusement park that I mentioned, and I can't see so much right now, but there's something going on. They're already building, and as far as I know, the plans are that it shall be reopened in 2024, so 3 years from now. Although I have no idea if, from the past, that Berlin usually takes longer for their bigger building projects, if they can hold this date or not. However, I will look around here a little bit. I hope I can see a bit of the former attractions. I mean, it was never a huge park, so nothing like a Six Flags, rather a small one. It still looks exciting because, as many, I really loved amusement parks in my childhood, and it would be great to have such a feature again here in Berlin. So something is happening, and I think that is the good news. The bad news is that the present is still very boring and dull. There's a tall fence, and you're absolutely not allowed to enter this area. Also, the big ferry wheel is currently not visible because it is demounted and under refurbishment. So all I could do was strolling around the fence, taking a look inside at the few attractions that are still visible and left from the former times, like this steel coaster, for example, or this coaster which was probably used with water. You also can see the toilets from the outside, Toiletten. Then there was this weird tent, and I guess it was used for events. But what I think is also interesting is that in front of it you have tracks of the former little train that was going through the park. And in 2013, I was able to take a ride at this train, although the park was already closed for a long time. And I digged out a few photos from that time to give you an impression of my former visit. However, just a few meters away is my next destination, the Eierhäuschen. This tour seems to be the tour of the unavailable attractions, as the Spreepark is currently under refurbishment, so is this other attraction, the Eierhäuschen. It has a really funny name because it means sort of small egg house, or small house of eggs in German, as Eier is eggs and Häuschen is small or a tiny house. They're putting a lot of effort into making this looking good, and it was actually mentioned in the novel Der Stechlin by Theodor Fontane, who is one of the best-known German author, at least here in Germany, of the 19th century, and it's one of his most popular books. He was fascinated, or the character in his book was fascinated, and so am I. It looks great, and I think it will look even greater when it's finished. Funnily, everyone that was passing by that day was talking about the Eierhäuschen when they saw it. So I think it really is a thing. And what I picked up was that people are really liking the progress that has been made in the previous year or so. I followed the small way along the Spreepark on the left and the Spree on the right. You can see, well, not so much from this view, but there are some places where you actually can access the water, and you have a really scenic view here to the other side, which is Rummelsburg. I captured a photo of the port of Rummelsburg, and I also captured a photo towards the Spree, towards the center, where you have the Treptow on the left, and in the background on the right you have the Fernsehturm. I think a storm is coming up. It's pretty windy now, it's grey and also a bit chilly. So for me, I think it's the best time to call it a day. I'm here at the waterfront, and maybe I can take a few more shots from around this area and put it into the final clip. I hope you liked this tour. I'll leave a comment or subscribe to the channel. Your feedback is really appreciated, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.